Over to Brigadier Sharma.
As General KJ has said, and the chair speaker, information technology has really impacted our life in past 2 decades. And that is also true as far as defense forces is concerned. Today, we have got long-range vectors, increased lethality, and we can impact simultaneously contact and the depth zone. But what is missing link is that if you have to do all this, speed is of the essence. And that is what Sun Tzu had said. Speed is the essence of war. Take advantage of enemy unpreparedness. Now, how speed can be achieved? You have picked up a target. You have to work out your trajectories. You have to take right ammunition to destroy that target. But if this is all is in manual, by the time you decide to fire, the enemy will be somewhere else. So therefore, this brings me to the next slide. What is the conventional system presently which we are following? There is a disorientation because we are working in the silos, regiment not integrated with the another brigade, lack of control also during move and combat, situational awareness not available at all hierarchies. To some extent, inefficiency in detecting has been resolved by the latest sensors which have come into Indian Army. But then, matching communication is not available. Response during quick action was a major factor which was missing, and especially in a mobile warfare, you don't have time to do manual processes and then to engage and to support your supported arms. In addition, problem of the inclement weather, and of course, uneconomical logistics support. Now, how technology has impacted us? There is an increased int and surveillance capability as far as the artillery is concerned. UAVs are there, LORAS, ELM, you name, best of the sensors we have already got. Enhanced weapon range, rockets, missile, lethality, and we have also got the PGMs. Proliferation of GIS, which is a must to give you the real-time feel, not working on those text messages. Data transmissions are increased by volumes. Seamless communication is a reality, which is to some extent is going to come in next 2 to 3 years. And of course, visual display and power packs. Now, how we were following our system till date? Sequential process, information movement via messages, radio, limited situation awareness, whatever is available in front, that's all, or something which will come from the higher headquarters. And limited ability to adapt to real time. Now, how net-centric warfare, which is also the domain of DGIS where I'm posted, all these will be concurrent processes. Situational awareness will be available to all. And real-time adaptation is possible. I'll just take you to the Operation Iraqi Freedom. Please look at the last bullet. Prior to that, the third bullet, in Desert Storm, there were 50% information on military significant target was available. Now this was enhanced in Operation Iraqi Freedom to 65%. And you see, compare the effect of both the wars. What a soldier was doing, he was using a laser rangefinder linked to a GPS receiver to get a target's coordinate, sent via satellite, bomber takes off and destroy the target. That is what the net centricity US Army had achieved. The inherent inaccuracy is 60 meter. That's the reality. So your round as such is 60 meter off when you're using paper maps. You're finding your location through survey processes, which is time consuming. So half of your regiments are not on one common grid. It takes time to bring onto one grid so that efficacy of all the stations is equal. Now, enemy location is worked out by the observer. Like General KJ said, it was approximation that, okay, this target might be at 3,000 meter, 4,000 meter, and then he starts ranging onto the target. Well, in today's battlefield, the moment you have fired one and second round, the enemy will not be there. He is also smart. It was up to the judgment of the observer when he sees a target that whether he has to apply one fire unit, two fire unit, or with what kind of weapon. It was left up to the experience of the observation officer. So best you can achieve neutralization, not the destruction, which should always be the aim. In spite of all this, when the data comes, you have to compute the data, and that is a very laborious process. I'm sure, especially infantry and artillery officers who use this process, how laborious it is. MET, another important factor for your accuracy. Though we have got a MET system, but working out the corrections is again manual. Safety checks. You require another manpower to see whether you are not going to fire within the safety parameters. So there was a necessity of the automated system for optimum utilization of resources. This is just a figurative thing that he sees a target, estimate the target coordinates, sends it via radio, prone to jamming. Even when they get it, manual process, then you start ranging, and then only you come to the target. Lucky if you get it on 2 round, otherwise wasteful expenditure. Now with this background, artillery command, control and communication, though the topic said, whereas it is RT, Combat Command and Control System, has been visualized as a network of mill-grade tactical computer extending to all artillery commanders, headquarters and firing elements. Now what was the challenge? Challenge was we should have commonality of hardware and software at all levels. We were groping that no, why should we give all the functionalities to all elements? But however, hardware is common, as far as the software is concerned, that is controlling all the other commonality function. It should be supported by customized GIS because you want to see everything as it looks in the real world. Now, integrated GPS was the requirement because the survey process takes time. So once you have got a GPS and you have got a BP data with the differential correction within a radius of 50 kilometers, you are on one common grid. And you simply have to pass that differential correction, nothing more than that. So how it is simplified going to be the survey process. Of course, relation database, integration with the new generation equipment like the thermal imagers, handheld HSTIs. Then the next challenge was to integrate with the other taxi TI system, and especially when it is with the sensor, because the sensor to shooter link is the most important link in the NCW. Sensor picks up the target, command element decides to engage it, and thereafter it is sensor and shooter, they are working together. Communication software to control dynamic routing. Now, there is a typical situation in the artillery. Okay, when you have to engage a target, your data should simultaneously be going to maybe 5 to 6 fire unit. So it cannot be a sequential process. A multicast type of protocol was required. And of course, like General KJ said, the front end should be very simple because the people who are going to operate will be our men. So for them, we cannot make it very technology-oriented, difficult thing. And of course, since it is going to be carried by people, especially who are in front, it should be lightweight, rugged, and to support high-speed computing. Now that was as far as the hardware configuration is required. As for the software functionality, now the main thing is that technical fire control. You have got the trajectory computations based on target data, gunnery parameter. When I say gunnery parameter, it includes all non-standard condition, MET and other things, inbuilt safety, crest clearance, and to be on one common grid, that is survey. Then was the tactical fire control, the processing of fire request. In the conventional method, you can control maximum. If you are in a regiment, you have got 3 fire unit. But now there is a 4 target has come up. Though observer is available, he is not able to engage. You have to reroute request to the fire direction center. It takes time. Now here in the system is monitoring real time which all fire units are engaged and which are available. When a target parameters come, the system finds out which all guns which are in range and are presently not engaged, it allocates. So therefore, the optimum utilization of the fire resources is carried out. In addition, target analysis and resource allocation. When I say target analysis, resource allocation, okay, whether it's an overhead protection, you require destruction, so it automatically gives you the number of rounds which you require to destroy that target, not left to the imagination of observer. Of course, the biggest important thing is ammunition management. Now the system should generate a pop-up after the ammunition has gone up to some critical level, so that you demand your ammunition, not that you start asking how much ammunition is left. And then the control of mix of caliber. That means if there is, I want to fire 155, 130 and 105, the system should be able to control. That is what is the tactical fire control requirement was. Next was the deployment management. Now, today we are in the GIS world. With the vector data, if it is available, GIS ready maps if you have, it will give you, especially in the mountains, which are the areas where you can deploy the guns. Not that you reach an area and then you find it is not suitable. And similarly for the observer, okay, which is the most suitable location to see maximum number of target. Op logistic, especially for the ammunition train, how much time it will take, move planning. So there was a necessity of also op logistic module. And the biggest challenge in this is the fire planning. An attack plan is given by the tactical commander. You have to convert it into a technical fire plan. Now that fire plan should go back to the tactical commander. He approves it. Then you have to generate task table. That means only those serial in which a particular fire unit to fire should go to him. Later on, I will show how much compression with the automated system is possible. A thing which almost took a night can be done in easily 45 minutes to 1 hour. Communication architecture was the most important as far as the artillery system is concerned. Though, as far as the present ACCCS is concerned, communication architecture is being looked after by Corps of Signals. Capability to interface with the legacy and future communication system, because the journey started long time back, so we have to have the analog communication and the digital. Of course, the speeds were low. Integration with other taxi system based on the TCP IP. All ports should be user configurable for any media. That means if I've got VHF, HF, LAN, line, OFC, it should be configurable. Priority of communication was laid down that for LAN, line and radio, the moment one fails, the system automatically switch on to the others, not that I have to configure it. Built-in prioritization of emergency messages to stop the guns for the safety of troops, and of course simultaneous voice and data communication. In addition, the GIS functionality, which were again a must for an RT system, it should support terrain analysis for RT deployment, move analysis for your move and ammunition management, deployment planning by identifying areas which are dead to RT fire. That is, when I'm saying dead to RT fire, there's the enemy. Observation planning through intervisibility, and of course crest clearance and safety norms. And as in the planning, most of the tactical commander wants to know that how many guns, gun density is available at a particular target or of the enemy. That should also be made available on the GIS. So ultimately what you required is a common modular type of a structure right from OP down to the highest hierarchy, that is fire control center. Now, how the system architecture is envisaged. OP, laser designated target, automatically the request goes to commanding officer if he is the control. It simultaneously also goes to the controlling element, that is the command post, so that he can work out the data. Commanding officer has got an override. Depending on the priority of observer, he can say, okay, not required. If he approves it, automatic allocation of resources, which are ideal, what kind of ammunition required, that control specifies, and the entire, all those who are allocated, it goes to them. And the only thing, when this technical data is available at the fire control center, that is battery command post, only one press of a button, like John KJ was saying, there should not be number of functionality. One press of a button, compute entire technical parameters to be computed and sent to the guns. And then only the thing is that you apply those parameters on the gun and fire. So, what can be telescoped? What in a fire mission, if you look at the slide, the top portion, it is the initiation of a target by the observer, which takes time. Allotment of resources, because the control has to see which are ideal. Then gun data computation, the processing, that takes time. Thereafter, when it goes to gun preparation and engagement, that time is still not telescoped. But however, initiation, allotment and process has been telescoped up to 60%. So if you were taking almost 18 to 20 minutes, a good observer with this system can take easily 8 to 10 minutes, and now that resource is also available to you for engaging other target. Fire planning procedure, I have said we were taking almost a night of a day fire plan, 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending upon the stability of the media. So what are the payoffs? Is the optimum utilization of the resources, mass employment capability possible, quicker response with higher accuracy, sensor to shooter capability, and integration with TAC-C3I system. Higher logistic efficiency, because we know when the ammunition gets depleted, we demand the ammunition. And of course, the maintainability aspect is the commonality of equipment. All stations have got only one type of equipment. So therefore, it is much easier to maintain the equipment. When the system was envisaged, it was envisaged basically for all the RT units. So our first challenge is how to integrate now it with the infantry motors as and when infantry gets its own fire control system. Second challenge we are now on the way ahead is to integrate with other TAC-C3I system. Because of all the systems initially started in a vertical silos, so now the integration is required. So that process is on, and I'm sure that will be achieved in next 1 to 2 years. The third channel, what we are facing, that today we have got new guns coming. Now we have to integrate with those new guns. So you've got to have all interface details and other thing. In addition, the system at the gun end is little away from the gun. So the entire technical data somebody has to read and to take it on the gun. The challenge is now to mount this system on the gun, because if you see the new system which are coming, they have got their own integrated fire control system mounted on the gun. And then fifth and the biggest challenge is the cyber warfare vulnerabilities, because no system is perfect. So therefore you have to build in your own security algorithm so strong that it will not be easy to penetrate. In the end, I will say that two of my peers who are here, it is their vision that today Indian Army has got first automated network system. The chairperson, General Katoch, during his time, it was dedicated to the Indian Army, and thereafter value additions which we have done in past 2 to 3 years, General Rajesh Pant. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brigadier Sharma. A very lucid presentation on the ACCCS. The next speaker is Brigadier Sanjay Ahuja, Youth Seva Medal. He is DDG in Directorate General of Infantry. Brigadier Sanjay Ahuja is an alumnus of RIMC and NDA and was commissioned into 15th Battalion, the Punjab Regiment in 1980. He has held numerous challenging command and staff appointments. He had the distinction of commanding a Special Frontier Force Battalion and an infantry brigade in high altitude area. He has been an ADC to the President and has served abroad in UN missions in Angola. He has also denoted the appointment of BM of an armed brigade. Post successful command of the formation, Brigadier Ahuja was posted to Army Headquarters as DDG Infantry and the Director General of Infantry. He is going to speak to us on modernization of infantry, covering the entire gamut, not digitalization only per se. Over to you, Brigadier Ahuja.
Respected Chairperson General P.C. Katoch, PVSM, UVSM, AVSM, Shaurya Chakra, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, all my life in uniform, I continue to hear that infantry and high technology, digitization included, are not complementary. While preparing for this script, the essence or the maximum that I could achieve, that I also believed and I also realized they are not complementary. And what I could say was, at least they should not be contradictory. So therefore, I approached Claus and said that limited to digitization, I haven't much to offer. So the topic was changed to infantry modernization. The subject of my talk, infantry modernization. I propose to approach this subject addressing the two qualifying and operative words, infantry, and thereafter modernization. As I go along, I'll share some of my impressions, and maybe the digitization and issues connected with it get also answered.
On a modern battlefield, smart weapons wield massive firepower.
Thanks. Today, we are talking of net-centric, asymmetric warfare, high technology, non-state actors, hybrid warfare. The end of one did not produce the another. These are the 4 generations that I'm talking of. Corollary, the one which came carried its past along. And this statement is important in terms of modernization. The one generation that came carried its past along. The cyber came, the space came, the land was not lost sight of. Innovation and fighting concept, they were the cause and effect. Point for military thinkers, which came first, the innovation or the fighting concept. First Gulf War, the prominence of infantry came under question, but events empirically prove thereafter Afghanistan, Iraq reconfirms the primacy of infantry. And what you see in the red background are the tasks which are so infantry specific, which are still in the order of the day, that infantry, its contribution still remains recognized. Relevance to us in India. Both the adversaries, if you see the map, Yes, flashpoints are in mountains. A hybrid warfare. All operations in foreseeable future are going to be infantry-centric. And what about special forces? No large wars, no long wars, no contemporary wars. Conflicts will remain. What is the answer? You don't want to have too much of footprints. Clinical operations, surgical operations, special forces. Preferred option. This is infantry vision, not right from the book. Reword it. Operate at land, air and sea. Entire conflict spectrum, conventional to hybrid wars. I come to modernization. It's a growth in and of itself. If you broaden and deepen the concept of modernization, encompassing everything, then you lose the meaning of it. Before I go for modernization per se, I thought these three subheads would be of relevance. Security is not exclusively military or matters military. Economy, resources, culture, ideas. Warfare is no frontline boundaries face of enemy. And technology, net-centric cyber war, precision-guided drones, more important even in the hand of individuals. However, with that as the background, the man and land still matter. Future operational environment. This slide has been often shown in such seminars. Increased reach, simultaneity of operations, battlefield transparency, high degree of technology to feed whom? This man who is my focus of effort. The infantryman, the man on the ground. There are two views. I have heard so many changes have taken place, that has taken place. I'm coming from the environment. Permit me to say, nothing, short of nothing has reached. What I am about to show is what is constant, what has not changed. Conflicts still exist. Small tactics, combat drills, battle drills, procedures, not changed. Fine, it's not Gutham Gutha ki ladai, but it's not much far from that. Basic role of infantry has remained the same. Human factor, instincts have not changed. Geography hasn't changed, terrain hasn't changed, adversaries have not changed. And uncertainty and complexity, if someone flees, it has increased. So was it in the past war, and so is it today. What has really changed for infantry is increased area of interest and influence, and probably enhanced lethality, survivability, situational awareness of it more. Modernization areas for infantry. Lethality, survivability, sustainability, situational awareness, mobility. Deeply related. Lethality is power to kill, and survivability is power to protect. Keep thinking which to choose first. No one single is most important. That fully defines modernization. Each are interlinked. Before I move further, I would like to share the concerns. Infantry has large number, 40% of Indian Army, 4.2 lakh, rough figure. Spread inventory is spread, huge inventory, runs in pages. There is a dilemma of reconciling the contradictions. Sustain versus growth. You have heard about hollowness and voids, and newspapers are full of it. Do we sustain? Or do you start going for modernization? When I buy a thing called X, is it sustaining me or is it modernizing me? Is it increasing my capability, development? Prioritize within modernization, bulletproof jacket or a weapon or a ATGM or a boot or a coat parka. Cost benefit, as a citizen, as a human being, audit it. And as an infantryman, I'll always question banner strength versus equipment intensive. Manning an arm or arming a man? Technology, I think in the morning keynote address, the Deputy Chief also mentioned, technology only support and cannot replace primacy of combat. In infantry, we got